And Tim is back. How we doing, Tim?
Well, I'm tired. Actually, I'm about bluegrassed out. I have to say.
Bluegrassed
I've
out.
had
That
three,
seems so tough. So
three,
tough, Tim.
three, 3 days of 6+ hours of bluegrass will have you looking like me.
Yeah. I know the
I've
pinky was
got a
up
little.
this weekend. Tim. Don't
Where'd you
worry.
go, Tim?
So Joel, there's a big annual festival called Winter Wondergrass that started in Avon. The guy who created this program, but the last number of years it's been here in Steamboat, and it is thousands of folks turn out outdoors in the snow to listen to the great bluegrass bands, and so you can get all of your bluegrass for the entire year out of the way on a single weekend.
That's awesome.
So it's efficient. It's efficient. Also,
Did you get the invite, Dennis? I didn't get the invite. Did you get the invite?
I didn't.
I will make sure that you have it next time.
But we could have done Market Structure Monday from Steamboat. We got to start going on the road with the show.
Right.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Joel.
Road trip.
Let's get it. Well, Dennis, we don't want you in there coughing all over us.
We need a big RV. We need like 3 RVs just coming down.
That's right.
Let's do it.
Pre-market prep on
across
the side.
America.
We did plan a field trip to Canada to get a Beyond Meat burger at McDonald's, but I can't remember what happened on that.
Yeah.
So, Tim,
they didn't last there long enough.
Let's talk. Is there a reliable way to know when stocks have bottomed? And if so, what are there?
Yeah, when they stop falling and start rising. Just kidding.
Just true. Actually true.
Right. That's the most reliable way. Well, everybody's got a way to think about that, and certainly we do too. And we were talking about this last week. There are things for us to talk about that worked and didn't from last week. The value trade didn't really, and we can talk about why. But I'll tell you how I think about a bottom, and I'm all about the math. It's not that that I'm a math genius, but the math is reliable. So I hate to do this already to folks, but I'm going to show you what I look at. And it's been over the last 5 years, 100% of the time true, and nearly 100% of the time true over the last dozen years. And that is, I think about supply and demand. Where is the supply-demand balance in the market, and when does it reach levels that will cause changes to occur? And we could talk about why those changes occur. Why is it that at a certain point in time, people start buying? It's the question that goes back to the time of the Romans. Why do people start buying stocks? I'm kidding about the Romans. But here's what I look at, Joel. So this is broad market sentiment. And I don't know if you can see my screen very well, but there's a green line and a red line. And statistically, every time that our measure of demand, it's just an algorithm that meters buying and selling, drops below the green line, stocks rise. It is very consistently true. And you go, well, what technical factors come into play? I don't know. I just know that when we hit those levels, which we did on Thursday, that the market starts rising. Now, it's very important for the supply side to tick down. This, by the way, folks, if you haven't seen this before, there's a measure of supply and a measure of demand for the equity market, just like there is for any market. We're going to be measuring supply and demand in the jobs market Friday. And I think that'll be pretty important. But here in the stock market, when buying and selling reach a level where if anything happens, anybody comes in, begins to consume the product, prices can rise. Well, that's a good way to know. And on the supply side, this is short volume. When it begins to turn back down, that's a very good signal too. I'm concerned about how high those levels are, but the long and short answer, Joel, is, from my view, when broad sentiment drops below 4.0, it is a very reliable indicator of a bottom. Now, how long that bottom lasts is another question, but that's the answer to me.
So broad sentiment right now on the SPY, go back to that, Tim?
Yeah.
Where are we right now?
3.6.
So that means to you think we've hit a temporary short-term bottom.
Exactly. You could go back to the last time that occurred. It was
that's interesting.
Yeah.
right there, right after December options expirations. This is why I said it on pre-market prep. I said the math would say that there is a 100% probability that stocks rise in January. And the reason I could draw that conclusion was this dip below the green line. Now, it depends on what happens with this. The reason we took off to the races in January is because supply imploded and demand rose. And that shot the stock market all the way into February. Is that going to happen again here? Well, it depends on whether this falls below that trend line. If it doesn't, this will not be the same kind of boomerang market that we had in January. But at the moment, I have very high confidence that I can pull my downside hedge because the market has a propensity for the moment. Maybe it only lasts till Thursday. I don't know, but it has a propensity to rise here.
When do you know, like, and obviously nobody knows anything, but when, do you come in and say, okay, well, we've come up enough here that I'm going to take profits now? So you're saying when it gets below 4 from your system, you're a buyer. When are you a seller?
I reduce my exposure and shorten my time horizons when it rises above 6. Okay. Doesn't mean that the market, you modulate your exposure. It doesn't mean that that I'm going to go, 6.0, I'm out. I don't do that. But I'm now going to think more short term. As long as the demand side is rising, I feel confident having exposure, maybe not even paying much attention. Let it run for days. But when you get to this level, now I'm going to be much more careful. And notice that the market was lower when the market bottomed than it was when it topped. This is SPY. So SPY was, call it 398. When we returned here, it was 394. It's a very good indicator that the market will not rise above this level. It's going to return to the level where it is at this point. So then you have to be a tactical trader. And I'm going to use that. Then I'm going to go look for the supply-demand divergences in both low volatility and momentum. When I'm out of opportunity and momentum, I will trade low volatility. And is it perfect? No. But I produced a 2% return on my whole portfolio last week by doing just those things. And maybe this would be helpful. We talked about DraftKings and a company called Pcor. In fact, I've got this here. This is a good indication of how do you know when you should come or go. So here's Pcor. It's been a great stock. I traded it, but look at it now. So demand is beginning to come. That may be fine. As long as it stays above 5, that's fine. But look at the supply side. The short volume is 62% in Pcor. So that's a good reason to go find something else. DraftKings, let's look at DraftKings. Could you produce, it wasn't as good, but you could produce returns trading DraftKings last week. But look at the supply-demand balance.
Earnings gap too. Look how nice that was on DraftKings.
Exactly. Yeah. And you could see that this is what caused it, Joel. People had to cover their shorts. So look at that huge one-day drop.
Let's see.
Right there. See that? So what do you see in the chart at the same time? That's what popped the price. Now I would not be in DraftKings anymore. Demand has fallen. Supply is way over trend. It's still below 50%, but that's a good reason to go find something else. That's what you want to do.
Now I definitely have to ask the question. I saw that DraftKings move, and I think it might have been market structure edge that pushed me a little bit. I actually swung short that gap there, but I'm going to take a look now about energy because we did get that little OPEC scare last week that shook a lot of traders there towards the open. Then all of a sudden the market opened and we started going straight up. What do you think about energy? Is this time for energy again?
Well, it's been a tough one. Hasn't it, Mitch? Because you
back and forth.
It really has. It has not delivered what I thought it would. But look at this. I touched the screen there. Look at the supply-demand balance in the energy sector. It's the same drill, everybody. It's just top is demand, bottom is supply. And if demand begins to rise back over 5 and supply falls, diverging supply and demand, that is what creates opportunity. So I think there is some opportunity. I don't know how strong that's going to be, but that is the best supply-demand divergence in energy perhaps in 2023. And we're seeing it show up in momentum. If you like CIVI, Civitas, here's a great supply demand divergence in a stock that has good liquidity, good size. You can get in and out of it. This rising demand, falling supply is exactly what you want to see. So, Mitch, I think there's opportunity in energy again, even EQT in the gas group. I mean, it's been that has been a risky area.
I think I agree with you. I think it's sneaky. I was saying last week I kind of like Chevron down here because we've totally forgot about the big buyback, and they've been hammering it. And all of a sudden, we started putting 3-4 lows in the same area, and then boom, obviously we had this headline that came Friday, and it's like, looks like OPEC's going to increase supply, and they hammered oil stocks initially off of it. And then you had the total reversal trade where they just turned around. They couldn't stop buying the oil stocks by the end of the day. So I don't know if that rumor materialized into anything or if it was just a rumor. I think it was more of a rumor than anything. But I do think valuations in the oil sector are cheap, and I do think that some of these stocks are oversold. Can you do a sentiment on? Oh, you already have done it. You've already brought it up and anticipated what I was going to ask. What the Chevron is?
Yep.
So there you go. Your numbers saying the same thing, that there's a potential that Chevron has bottomed.
Yeah, its demand is rising. I'd like to see supply fall further, but look at the downtrend. This is a 30-day. Is it 30? No, it's maybe even longer than that. No, it's a 30-day downtrend. I just had to do quick math there. So falling supply. Demand beginning to rise again. I'd like to see it get over 5. I prefer that when I'm a buyer, because what if a stock doesn't return to 5? Then you're caught with a stock that won't rise. What does 5 mean? Well, it just means that there is excess demand. If it's a 10-point scale, we just normalize the data to 10. The stocks above 5 tend to outperform. But yes, we're setting up here for some good opportunity, I think, in Chevron. And that's a good bellwether for energy.
All right, let's take a look at maybe how do you feel about natural gas? Everyone in the chat's like, well, what happened to natural gas? What happened?
What happened?
Maybe
Market Structure Edge can help us out with that, right?
It absolutely can. I mean, it's there's no perfect solution, but it's a great way to think about the group. And I've got 7 components here in my nat gas portfolio, and here's why it's been so tough. The more time that stocks spend below 5, the worse they tend to do. And really, since the end of January, you could go all the way back to January options expirations. That was the time to be out of natural gas. Demand peaked and began to fall. You can always look at the calendar. Comes around the third week of each month most times. And it's been weak. Well, we finally are back over 5. Happened here too, but supply was rising. So now we have rising demand, a downtick in supply. If that continues, we have opportunity in natural gas. So it's better than it's been. Is that is it awesome? It's not as good as the whole of energy, but that's not bad.
All right,
I just want to make a couple quick comments here on the natty gas and the UNG. We were talking about this at Pre-Market Prep Plus. Everyone was chasing the rally.
Yep.
It hit a level. I'm just going to give you the levels for the UNG. If you feel like that move off the low was the low, a major low, you're getting a chance at halfway back of this move here from the February low. So natty gas or UNG, that comes in at 857. And then for the futures, which I like to look at more so than the UNG, you're right at that area right now, 2.67. You're giving back half of that move. So keep an eye on that, folks. If you're looking to nibble on along, you felt like you missed the rally, here's a chance on a pullback. And if you think that was a major low there in natty gas.
I got one last question here for Tim before we get him out of here. Now, one area that I definitely wanted to take a look at is, I know last time when we were running up and then we started breaking back down, you were looking in the momentum category. I want to know how many tickers are showing up in momentum now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I'll show you those 2 portfolios. I run a slightly different screen, but this is a momentum screen. This is a value screen. And it's really interesting to see value has a lot more than momentum. I'm going to go back up to the ones that we use all the time. Here's momentum. This is where I pick my trades. And there are 5 in it. And in low volatility, where I'll pick the other side of the equation, 5 in it. the numbers are paltry, and it's kind of surprising. You could go back to January, and there were 35 in momentum, and you really knew that, wow, there's an awful lot of momentum. So that is a little bit concerning. Does it mean that we're not off to the races? Well, it's a data point. But these are the things that I will look at. And all of these to me are good choices. I traded Natera last week. Great returns in it. Here's Civitas, which I mentioned. Range Resources is in a deal, we think. So beware of that. NVIDIA, I mean, it's kind of amazing. EQT, I mentioned. So those are all things that have momentum characteristics, but it's not 25 or 30 or 35. So I don't know. On the flip side of that, I said, I think that the value trade could return. Well, it sure hasn't, has it? So I was wrong on that count, but I think what needs to happen for value to have appeal again is, say, for instance, a weak jobs number. And again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. For those of you who are less familiar with the economic data calendar, every month, usually on the first Friday, we have jobs data in the U.S. And it's a very important metric right now because it affects the Federal Reserve's policy. Well, when the first day of the month is Wednesday or later, it gets pushed into the next week. So that's this week. And so, if you're going to be careful, the time to be careful is Friday, maybe even Thursday, because we don't know what that number is going to be. If it's a surprise for the market, either strong or weak, it could affect the way that global macro funds go long or short. And you could see momentum suddenly vanish. And so you just have to be aware of those kinds of things. They're the things that affect the market now.
Well, definitely, you guys can keep up with all this data and ask questions. If you guys have any questions, definitely reach out to Tim. I'm sure he's more than willing to walk you through it. And if you feel that you need some help with Market Structure Edge on how to best use it, definitely reach out. You guys can get a 1-month trial without a credit card. And of course, use that promo code Benzinga to go ahead and get that discount for that 1 month. Appreciate you coming on. Like always, you guys can keep up with everything Tim Quast does. He also has a good Twitter. He puts out some mentions every now and then. So give him a follow. We'll see you next time, Tim.
Hey, one last thing, Mitch.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention this. So it's kind of big news for us. We signed a content agreement with Interactive Brokers last week. So it's the first big step after, working hard to make sure that this platform works to now bring it to more folks. But it's a big first step for
Congratulations.
Edge. Thank you.
Yeah,
love to see that,
on
Tim.
I'll look
definitely.
forward to, because I'm an IB customer, so I'll
Me
look forward
too.
to seeing your stuff on IB.
Thank you. Yeah,
Great
you can
platform.
get it right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, you
Definitely.
guys have a great
Big
week.
congrats, Tim. Have a good one.
Just
Thank
real
you.
quick.